I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the question of the week. I think we chatted about it, just leading into things. We you mentioned about, well, we the question of the week was, what can we charge for our work? I mean, what can we charge maybe for a bike that a lot of people are coming into the scene, and they're starting to build. Like, all of us got excited. The cool thing about custom bikes is that you could start from like zero budget, right? And you could add things as your skills improve, as you get things going. You can. That's what's really cool about the bike game. So that was so. And eventually, people asking them, and then next thing you know, people are asking them, "Hey, how much would you make me this bike for?" Right? And a lot of us, I want to go further because I know you made some good. I want you to bring them out, but like, a lot of us don't really know. Like, we think that we should just charge for, like, say, the materials and maybe our time. All right. And before we get into what our time's worth, we think that's what it's worth. It's nothing more than time and material, right? A lot of people think. I mean, I started off thinking like that. People, because it seems to be kind of how easy you can calculate. But of course, we never counted any of our creativity in there, and how much time we spent trying to be creative in the design or whatever. We never sort of really. So a kind of value for our work is really based on some limitation. What do you think about it, Gary? You've had some really interesting thoughts, and I don't want to break it out for you. What do you think?
Well, I think that most of the people that are doing these custom bikes are not taking into consideration their talent, their artistic talent. The value of a painting. Let's say you're getting a Van Gogh. You buy a Van Gogh now, you're going to pay millions and millions of dollars for it. That's what it's worth. You buy a Van Gogh back when Van Gogh was alive, you're going to pay Van Gogh to make a painting for you. You want him to paint your portrait. Okay. And he's going to tell you it's going to cost you $600 to paint your portrait. Well, he's not just charging for his time. He's charging you a certain amount for his talent. And that talent he has to assign a certain value to that talent. And he's going to assign that value based on how many people want him to paint your picture. And I think these bikes are the same thing. They are artistic statements as much as they are mechanical statements. And I've had this conversation with other custom builders where they charge a certain amount of money for their bike. And I'm like, you're crazy. That bike is worth way more than that.
Yeah.
So that's a unique, one-of-a-kind bike. Yeah. You need to charge something for your talent, not just your mechanical ability. You're a great welder. You're a great mechanic. Okay, those have quantifiable numbers attached to them. Mechanics get $100 an hour. Welder's going to get $125 an hour, a good one. That's easily quantifiable. But how do you quantify the talent? And that's based on how much people want it, the desire for it. The desire for, let's say, Robert Bellier's bike is very high, way higher than the price would reflect. The prices on his bikes are way too low based on his talent. And I've told him that. But, he's still charging basically for the welding job that he's doing and the cutting and the bending. And I honestly don't think he's getting anything for his talent. And I just think that's wrong. I think all the builders need to somehow figure out what their talent is worth and get something for that. Because why does somebody buy a Robert Bellier's bike instead of McCargy bike? Not because it's built better, because it's better looking, because it's more stylish. And that has to have value. And I just think everybody is underestimating the value of their talent.
Okay, yeah. I mean, can I make a scenario that I thought about just to make it thought? Imagine if you're building your bike, and I'm asking everybody here, especially people in the beginning, who just don't have a lot of skill yet, but they like designed their bike and they did it nice or whatever. Maybe even a tattoo artist, and they could like draw it out really nice. And then maybe they have to like technically draw it or something, and then take it to a welder, right? And maybe even you have to like cut out all the tubing and get it, all set up so that so the guy just welds, right? And it's the only thing he does. He doesn't come up, he doesn't cut it, he doesn't do anything. All he does is weld, right? And what's that guy going to get charged, right? So like,
in a case like that, you could go to any welder and they could build it for you. But there are other things involved in bicycles, and I've been dealing with this for years and years. There are designs that work and designs that don't work. I mean, mechanically, the wheels will spin and the handlebars will turn, but the bike rides like a piece of crap. So you need to have a certain basic knowledge of how bikes work before you can actually build a bike. So that's also got some value. But that's a quantifiable value. I mean, an engineer is going to get a certain amount of money for his time. Engineers really are.
But what about supply and demand? What about supply? You said supply and demand. Like, all right, Robert Bellier doubles his price. All right. I mean, is he selling any bikes now? Or are you thinking like, he can double it? Yeah, he's worth way more. Yeah, he should be like way more. But nobody will buy it if it's double price. Well, not nobody, but I mean, our market is really small. I mean, I guess you might say like it needs to be bigger then, right? Our market, I just don't think our market's big enough.
I see companies like Fat and McCargy selling lots of stretch bikes.
I mean, custom stuff. I'm talking. I mean,
anybody can customize that, but they're selling lots of them. I think the market is much bigger than you realize. It's much bigger than I ever thought it would be right now. When I was first starting out, when I first saw Robert Bellier's bikes, I didn't think there was a market at all. And I've been shown that I'm completely wrong on that. And, through my dealings with other builders and with other companies, I see now that it's much bigger than any of us realize, period. But there's two different markets. There's the custom market and there's the mass market. And custom builders are never going to build for the mass market. And the mass market is never going to build for the custom builder unless you do
Could we not, Gary? I mean, I always thought like, why can't there be, some of the more talented custom bike builders? Why not like these places like Fat or McCargy hunting down some of the more talented custom designers in our scene? I mean, wouldn't it be like even some of the cool bikes, like, there's some bikes that are like Sam McKay's Fluid. It's probably the most highly sold bike in the custom scene. And there's quite a few. Why not? Why haven't like big companies come and approach any of the more talented custom bike builders?
I would. Now I'm just guessing here, but I would guess that they're more concerned with, number one, is it something they can build at a factory level, or is it too complicated, too complex to build at the factory? And the factories, pretty much all the factories are in China now, and they are used to building bikes a particular way. And I know when I was at Fat, when we came up with some unique aspect of a bicycle that we wanted to change, like the tank, for example, I would have to go personally to China and teach them how to build a tank. So it's difficult to get manufacturers, large quantity builders, to actually fabricate and produce large numbers of special bikes. So the talent that the builders have, the custom builders have, is hard to translate to factory output. Very difficult.
I mean, yeah, there's stuff like in my own particular design. There's like in that one over there. I never had intention for anybody ever to copy that bike in the background. Even like John Brains, which is right there. Any of those bikes, even all these. I don't think that it was never intention. They could try, But the whole point is I never in my mind thought like I'm going to build a bike for the masses, right? And nothing was ever in my mind for how easy it would make, China's job. And I think a lot, as like you said, a lot of builders are not thinking about what China is going to be. I think if we put our head into that, we'd probably sell some more bikes. But I think we want to be more unique and more cool. I don't really see how. That's where I feel like that's why we're never grown out of here, is because we never want to duplicate our stuff, right? It's cool like to get like an intro into it through McCargy or Fats and things like that. But in the end, the custom bike is about being as unique as possible.
Exactly. Yes.
So yeah, we tried. We tried.
And that's the other limiting factor too. Is you want your design to be unique. You don't want it to be the same as everybody else's. So
that's right. I mean, so can we so for people wanted to start off and say, okay, get me let's put some hard numbers in here. If somebody's watching here and said, look, no one's bought a bike from me, but somebody asked me yesterday, hey, they like my bike. I built it myself. And then what should I charge them? Should I charge them, bicycle mechanic wages? I mean, I don't have any experience yet. I mean, I did it for myself. Somebody wants me to build them something. I don't know what I'm going to charge them. What's my hourly? What's my, what am I thinking in my head when I want to charge somebody?
That's a question that, I mean, that's going to be really hard to answer that question because
sorry about that.
I think the only thing you can do is take the stuff that you have and find out what it's worth. And if you don't want to sell what you have, then I don't think it's possible to come up with a price on something for that. I mean, aside from just assigning a value to the time and mechanical ability, there's really no way.
I thought, like, for example, my idea was if you felt like I as you say, quantifiable, at least the quantifiable end would be, all right, what is a good bike mechanic get? Bicycle mechanic, because that's what we were getting. We were like glorified bicycle mechanics, and they found our bikes in bicycle shops, and they want to pay us bicycle wages. I mean, that's how why it's so low income. It's so low.
Mechanics don't make nearly as much as they're worth.
Hell no, they don't, man. It's really on the low end of like the the skilled kind of mechanical jobs, and that's what they thought. We were just kind of like a little bit better, like we were mechanics that could weld. I mean, that's basically what I felt like in the sort of 20 years I've been involved. They found their bikes there, and they always just wanted to come up and say, look, I'll give you like, what do you want? $8 an hour in the shop? I'll give you 10, So I'm not looking at that kind of, but I say to people, start there. Put let's start $10 an hour. All right. Why $10? Because you know what? You're not having any experience yet. Let's start at $10 that you know how to fix a bike at very least. You could probably get a job in the bike shop, and you get paid $10 an hour. So like, all right. So whatever you spent on that, more or less, you put that on there. So $10 an hour times whatever. It took you 20 hours. I mean, count your time officially, at least for the ability. And then custom materials, and you might say, well, I got it all free. I got it on the street, and that didn't cost me anything. But it does. Actually, it does. I know it costs me every time. I got loads of free stuff, and some free stuff are more important than other free stuff. And you're going to put a value to that, right? So I think people need to put a little bit more than it was free, but more about like how much it's worth in sort of a project. Like it's worth a bike at least. It's worth like that bike is worth, $50 or $100, in its used value. So I kind of throw that quantifiable time. And then if you're an artist about this, and I'm saying to you, that's where you start. So after you find your price, your materials, I say double it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all.
Absolutely. But there's so many people that there is one other group of people out there too. And that's the people that just love bikes. And the people that just love bikes would probably do it for free. Charge you for the materials, and then the rest of the stuff that they're doing it because they love doing it. It's their hobby, it's their sport, it's whatever. But Robert Bellier is one of those people that really loves what he does, and it shows in the end product. But because he loves it so much, I don't think he's as concerned with how much profit he makes. And I'm sure his wife would agree with me on this, that most of these guys, including Robert, don't make nearly enough for their talent. And
that's why he's awesome. That's why he's awesome, because he got more people into it. That's right. There's a lot of us that just get like, oh, come on, it's really easy to get in. Like, I think everybody sees that like the finishes on their bikes and, the extreme, like, so they get pulled, they got turned off. And they get turned off by people like throwing out, $500, $600, $700 and $900 frames, and people are like, what? But, I'm like, I'm with you. I think all those numbers I just said, they should be doubled.
It would be nice.
Yes, buy them now, you guys. Buy them now. They're cheap, huh?
It would be nice. The bicycle industry itself has always been extremely undervalued. I've been in this industry for a long time, and I can't tell you how many times, we're talking thousands of times, I've heard the same thing from consumers. They'll walk into the store and they'll say, how much is this bike? I'll say it's $230. And they'll say, I can get the same damn bike at Kmart for $100. Why do you get $230 for your bike? They don't really care about that answer. They just want you to know that they could get the bike cheaper at Kmart or Walmart or wherever. And the difference in the bikes is tremendous. It's a huge difference. But you can't explain that to a person that believes that a bicycle is just two wheels, a chain, and handlebars. They're all the same to them. And I'd say a good 75, 80% of the people out there buying bikes are of that mindset, of the mindset that prices of bicycles should be based on what they sell for at Kmart, not on what they should sell for. And I've experienced this thing on everything from parts to complete bikes, anything to do with bicycles. A derailleur. If you look at a derailleur on a 10-speed bicycle or a racing bicycle, I call them 10 speeds because that's where I grew up, but 21-speed bikes, whatever. That derailleur, the engineering and componentry and manufacturing that goes into that one part, that part should probably cost $100 if you compared it to electronics or a blender for your kitchen or, a alternator for your car. The amount of effort that goes into building that, the amount of parts that goes into building that should be $100 part. Nobody wants to pay more than $10, $15 for it. That's it. Unless you're a racer, then you're going to spend hundreds of dollars on it. You know what it's worth. But the typical cyclist doesn't really understand how much effort, how much engineering, how much work there is involved in a real bicycle because they're buying at Kmart most of the time. So that's
Walmart.
it.
Walmart now.
Walmart. This Mart, that
We've got Walmart now. Kmart too, I think. Yeah, it's Kmart as well.
But that's been a problem in the cycling industry for a long time, and that's something that you'll run up against more in the retail business than you do in the custom business. Custom people, kind of drop that a little bit, but it's still there. To some extent, it's still there. It still exists.
That's right. So I'm glad you've given us some kind of, because I'm still, I got my answer, and I did spend 20 years in and I got my price, and I know I feel a bit confident about what I can charge. But I really feel it for the new guys. I really feel like, hey, people want to buy my bike. What should I charge them? And like you said, they end up doing it for like, they undervalue their time, or they undervalue their materials, and at the end of the day, like, it started off with real excitement, and actually after they've done all the work, they kind of went like, wow, that was a lot of work, for $50.